Welcome to the Bingebreakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer. This recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. And it's your girl here, Jacqueline, and I'm in one of those moods where I'm very tired. My eyes just feel tired, and falling asleep sounds really good. Closing my eyes sounds really good right now. And yet I am so wired on caffeine. And that is not something I would recommend. The reason that I am that way is because I didn't get a whole lot of sleep the past few nights, and I've been working really hard while also trying to maintain normal daily life. But sometimes hustle has to happen, and I have a really good reason for why I'm so tired and hopped up on caffeine. And that's because I'm hosting a free 5-day no binging challenge starting this Monday. And so if you want to sign up for that, if you are feeling stuck and monotonous in your bulimia recovery and you want to stop binging, but you really don't feel that motivation or momentum, this challenge is for you. It's completely free. It's going to be super excited. It's my first time ever doing a challenge, and I've been working really hard to do that, among coaching with my clients and taking care of the new course members and doing everything normal that I do, like walking my dog. So please, if you would like to join and hang out with me and my caffeine hopped up free self, then you can find that in the description below. Just click on the link that says free challenge and you'll be taken there, and follow the prompts and you'll be joined, and then you'll be added to a Facebook group, and then we will all focus on going 5 days without binging and learn a lot in the process. It's not just about going 5 days. This will be about building momentum and giving you the base knowledge you need so that you can continue it. So anyway, this is an awesome opportunity. It's completely free. There's really no risk to it. It's just you got to show up in your bad self. Secondly, today's episode is going to be kind of a fun one. It's not my typical conversation that I have, but I invited Marcus Kain back on the podcast. Marcus is a great dude. We're probably going to do many other collaborations because our conversations, we just vibe. I feel like we vibe, and I think he thinks the same thing. But today we had a conversation all about attraction and what people think others are attracted to, what people think is important in terms of attraction and finding another partner, but it's not actually reality, and how trying to appeal to the masses actually makes you do really crazy things. And we talk about both of our misconceptions that we had about what we think maybe the opposite sex wants or stuff like that. The only thing to keep in mind is, first of all, we don't speak for everyone. So the whole conversation, you notice we're a little bit nervous. We're putting disclaimer after disclaimer on this conversation, but we definitely don't speak for all men or all women or all people. But then secondly, we both agreed, we talked about it afterwards, that we really didn't do a good job. We dropped the ball on the fact that we didn't really talk about people that don't identify as either male or female. And so what I want to say is that, first of all, I'm sorry, we didn't consider that while we were talking about it, but this conversation still definitely applies to those of you that don't necessarily identify as male or female and just identify as they, them. The concepts we talk about aren't just about men and women, they're concepts for everyone. So sometimes we use just she or he pronouns, and we didn't necessarily think about the inclusivity. So I just wanted to apologize and own up to that, and hopefully you can understand. I support you guys out there. And so, yeah, please listen to this episode, and I hope at least, you feel good after listening to it and it makes you laugh a little bit. It's kind of a lighthearted episode. So please enjoy. If you want to sign up for the challenge, doors close Monday morning. So sign up now. There's only 100 spaces available. So do that. All right. Enjoy the episode. Bye. Okay. So I guess we'll just jump into it. I got to say, cool. I was feeling nervous about this episode because when you first messaged me, for everyone listening, this is Marcus. He's great. He's been on the podcast before. Yeah, but Marcus originally messaged me because he posted some story about misconceptions about what people want. I think it was caring about dudes bench, right? And that's what girls care about, right? And obviously that's not true. But anyway, you messaged me and said, let's do a podcast episode about this. And originally I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. This sounds so hilarious. And then I was like, what if I think all the wrong things? I don't speak for all women. What am I going to say? How are you feeling? I feel nervous.
Well, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it. Like, I was writing a couple of notes as like talking points and some funny things to mention. I think probably the main thing to mention about this topic for everyone listening is that we are having a laugh. This is not like the most serious, informative episode of anything that we've ever done right now. This is just some kind of funny stuff. And I think funny stuff with like an undertone of seriousness, because I know 100% the issues that got me on the track to experiencing eating disorders and all that kind of stuff was a gross misconception of what I thought made me valuable and, what I thought made me attractive. And now, years later, I can see the humor in it and I can have a joke, but I just want to kind of make that really clear. Like, there's that kind of duality going on. Like, this is very real for a lot of people. There are a lot of gross misconceptions as far as what makes them valuable. And if you are right in the middle of that still, then, maybe some of the things that we talk about might hit a bit close to home. But I would want anyone listening to know that, we are talking about these things from a perspective of having been there and having a lot of love for anyone who's still there, and knowing that, if we're able to have a bit of a smile about it and just talk about it and get it out in the open, then maybe we can offer a few pathways out of that place.
Yeah, what an elegant way to say that. Absolutely. I think that we are having a laugh. It is supposed to be more of a lighthearted episode, but they're based in really real things. And just because maybe we're laughing at a few of the ideas, we were also in that crazy at some point. And we're not judging you for being in that crazy if you're listening and you think that way. It's just to let you know that once you get out of that mindset, you actually see that it's not all that real or necessary, and it's kind of hindering you in a lot of ways. So totally agree there.
100%. And I think one of the main things that really inspired me to have this conversation and reach out to you, Jacqueline, to record this episode was recently I experienced a trigger, the likes of which I had not experienced in fucking years.
Ooh, I'm very interested now.
Like a body image trigger that hit me like a brick. And I was sitting there just thinking like, wow, okay, so apparently this is still a thing on some level. And it came when one of my favorite book series ever, Reacher, like the Jack Reacher series, was made into this new TV series when they finally got past the idea of Tom Cruise being Jack Reacher, because that was a terrible idea. And they cast this incredible looking giant dude to play Jack Reacher in this series on Amazon. And the moment I hit play on that series, like my inner masculinity just kind of looked at this guy and went, fuck.
Yeah.
Because he was like 6'5" and just built in the way that, like, my inner teenager was going, oh my God, I hope I look like that when I grow up. And right. I'm sorry, buddy. It's like, we're not there.
Aren't all guys 6'5" and like, super built and everything? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, we all should be, but apparently we're not. But this thing happened when I was watching this series, just looking at this guy through a mixture of awe, envy, and insecurity. And I commented about it to my girlfriend, and her reaction was just incredible. Like, we've been together for many years now, and she's so amazing and so incredibly blunt in the most endearing and beautiful way sometimes. Oh, no. I was like, oh my God, this dude, I wish I looked like this dude. And she looked at me and went, are you fucking kidding?
Oh no. Is that was like good or bad?
And she's like, he looks like a monster. He moves like Frankenstein. No, just no. No, on so many levels.
I gotta look him up now that you're saying that. Jack Reacher.
Well, I think just, and again, no offense to the poor guy who's playing that now, who's just heard, I doubt that he would ever hear this, but someone's ripping into him saying that he looks like a monster or looks like Frankenstein or whatever. But just as far as personal tastes are concerned, my girlfriend was looking at this dude who I thought was the epitome of what I should kind of aim to look like, thinking about ways that I can grow a few extra inches and all this kind of stuff. And just looking at this guy and thinking, you know what? No. And something's really struck me as something that she said that I didn't think would register as a big part of someone's attractiveness. She was like, he doesn't move right. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. I just looked up the guy actually that you're talking about. It's on Amazon, the series, right?
Yeah.
And first of all, I just want to say, like, everyone has a right to do whatever they want their body. Like, whatever I say about this guy's body, I'm sure he does not give two shits. He is totally like, he gets to do what he wants. My opinion doesn't matter. But this guy, in my personal opinion, I know who he is. I've seen him in some other stuff before. He was in a horrible, really, really trashy series called Blue Mountain State. It's like toxic masculinity up the wazoo. But I personally, in my personal attraction scale, think he looked better before when he was smaller. He was still like, I don't even think he was natty then. Like, he had a lot of muscle then for sure, but I think he looked better. He looks like he put on a lot more mass since then. And yeah, I agree with your girlfriend. He looks a bit too bulky in my opinion, honestly. And even though he's like full muscle, it's just not in a good way. He seems kind of like the Hulk or something. And that's not necessarily what I think most women like. And again, I don't speak for most women, but I think that's the average consensus.
Yeah. And it's one of those conversations that, made me think as well, like some of the women who talk to me about, their experiences with disordered eating and what they're going through and what they aim for and where those goals originally come from, always strike me as being like, I have two thoughts in my head. I'm like, okay, who gave you the impression that that's, again, it's such a dicey conversation because people have body goals for themselves, not necessarily to impress other people. But I'm talking right now about the conversations that I've had where people have flat out told me that they want to look a certain way in order to be attractive for someone else. And the more this conversation gets going, it's like we could unpack each element of this for days. But for example, something that happens quite frequently is that someone will send me like an Instagram profile of a sports model of some description with my background in strength and conditioning and nutrition and everything like that. She'll be like, oh, what do I have to do to look like that? And for a start, why do we want to look like that? And then the conversation will inevitably lead to, in one way or another, saying that's what I believe I need to look like in order to insert whatever result here. And the thing that strikes me when I look at some of these people that people are kind of putting up there on a pedestal as far as body goals are concerned, I'm like, I know what they would be doing in order to be hitting that target. And I am 99% sure that would make them not a cool person to be around. Like you would not.
A lot of people, I was following this. I follow this. I don't follow too many because you want to be careful to fill your Instagram feed with that. But one girl, she is a Bikini Prep. She just won, I think, like Mrs. Olympia. So she like pretty big, right? But her life, if you look at her stories, not saying like this is her life, she loves it. And everyone in her life, it seems like, are also gym people, but she's not going out to bars or going out to eat, stuff like that, not hanging out with the mates. Like, she's in the gym.
Yeah.
Her entire life is prep and food and stuff like that. And she's a paid athlete. That's what she lives and breathes and like to do. But the reason she looks like that is obviously from hard work. And I don't know, maybe like some drug help too. I have no idea. But she looks like that because that's her entire life. And I don't think she has many other hobbies outside of that. And it's not that that's wrong, but it doesn't necessarily make you that fun to be around if you don't have the same interest that she does. And she's probably surrounded herself with people that have the same interests as her, which is fine. But that it's just, yeah, I don't think people realize the amount of work sometimes the physiques that they want. Like this Jack Reacher guy, I'm sure he spends a lot of time doing the same stuff. That's his entire job, so act and look like that.
Yeah, and of course I went straight down the rabbit hole of finding his training program and what he was doing and the methods the methods that he was using for prep during,
I think it's cool
like,
that you admit that, by the way.
Well, it's like partly there's only a small fraction of that nowadays that's like that comes from a place of morbid jealousy. Like
we all have it, don't worry.
Like most of it now, like the vast majority of it definitely does come from a place of professional curiosity, again, because strength and conditioning is part of what I do. So I'm always interested in different programs, different methods, and I do enjoy dissecting those things, because when you do dissect them, you kind of reach the point where you realize, okay, this has common ground with that. That's the goal of that program, and all that kind of stuff. But is there something I was wondering, like what kind of cliches can you think of, or what comes to mind for you when you think of people having something in their head that they believe is super, super attractive, to the degree to which they're willing to sacrifice so much? I
wrote a very crude list of the main things that I see women talk about a lot that I coach. One is like, I want to be skinny. They usually have some sort of weight that they have in mind that they want to reach, or they want to be like ultra fit and like thick in muscle and stuff like that, and be like that J-Lo curvy, like hourglass figure. And a lot of girls don't like have an hourglass figure. They do if they pose correctly, but that's not, if I just stand straight, I'm not going to look like I have a total hourglass figure. It's just not going to happen for most people. But anyway, that's one thing. And then also I wrote big booty, big boobs, because I think girls think they need to have that. And then maybe even taking it a step further, they think they have to have like lip injections, stuff like that, to be attractive. But with these cliches, I think when I was prepping for this conversation, it was funny because I thought in my relationship, I know you've seen my like confession series, I had some really rough times in my relationship, and I thought that what would make my relationship better was just losing weight and looking better. And yet during that time, I was not only like, I cheated on my partner multiple times, I was bulimic like crazy. I was like, when I wasn't bulimic, I was either being depressed, irrational, crazy, or playing The Sims all the time. This is the only thing that I could like numb out with that wasn't food. And I was like, oh, I could just lose weight. That would make our relationship better. And it's like, maybe I had to change my personality and be there and like stop being so crazy. And that would have helped. So anyway, to answer your question, those are the cliches, but I think that it's funny. We think those will solve the problems, but I think they're just masks for the other problems in our life. And that's attraction is important to people, but it's not everything in a relationship, right? It won't hold the relationship over time.
100%. And as a society, we tend to undervalue the attractiveness of emotional stability while promoting body image standards that will literally drive people insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I know like for guys, like I see guys in the gym like constantly just living in the gym, creating these physiques that essentially just only attract other dudes. And
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't, and I don't mean like in homosexual relationships or
No, they
gay
get
dudes or
kudos
anything,
for
but
it.
yeah, they just it's just about like they're bros. It's like
Mhm.
they get invited into this world going, yeah, come on, you'll be super hot, you'll look all buff, you'll look really good. And then 12, 24 months down the track, they realize that all their Instagram engagement is like 99% other bros going, yeah, dude, you look fucking great.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're starting to experience some relatively severe emotional and physical issues from maybe steroid use or something like that. But that's okay because at least your bros think you look hot, and
Right. It
it's
becomes a more
yeah.
like peer impressing thing. I think that's very true for women as well, because women, we can, everyone can be competitive, but I think there's a history with women of being competitive against each other, seeing each other as threats. And so I think while women that are interested in men, want to be attractive to them, they also sometimes want to feel more attractive than the other women around them. And that was definitely a thing for me. I mean, like, I know that people, hopefully, like, there's some people out there listening. It's like, you guys are just crazy and you were crazy and they don't struggle with any of this stuff. But
That would be
I,
great. I hope so. Yeah.
right. But I definitely found myself in the gym and just everything like picking every other girl apart and thinking like, do I look better than, if I felt like I looked better than her based on my standards, then I could feel good about myself. If I didn't look better than her, then I would try to find other ways to like pick her apart. So it definitely becomes about a peer pleasing thing, I think.
That just blew my mind because I realized that I was doing that for years and never really looked at that specifically. So yeah, I'll have to unpack that later.
Right. Well, it comes from an
Definitely.
insecurity thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's that whole thing of being in an environment and rather than paying attention to maybe who you're interested in that environment, looking around at all the potential competition and kind of weighing them up in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't help you. And honestly, too, I found that once I actually spoke to those girls that I was like felt insecure around, but I was trying to find some way to make them this bad person so I could feel good about myself. Once I actually said hi to them or gave them a compliment, they're like, "Oh, you're so nice." They were perfectly nice people and people I would want to be friends with. So it not only doing that isolates you from potential mates or partners that you want to be with and doesn't, no one wants a partner that's constantly comparing and jealous and all that sort of stuff.
Mm,
But then it also isolates you from people that could be your friends because you're constantly comparing yourself to your peers, being like, do I look better than them? Yes or no? That sort of
yeah,
stuff.
it just creates a lot of tension almost in multiple directions. And anyone who is really only interested in certain physical attributes, like you don't want that person around anyway. I
No.
remember one of the biggest body image things that I've ever been through is losing my hair or experience, my hair thinning
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
in my kind of music career, I knew that I wasn't a great guitarist. Like I knew this. I knew this for a
Oh,
fact. But like I knew that I was a passable guitarist on a good day. But it was made quite clear to me that I was hired for my image in that
mm-hmm.
band. Like I was relatively good with organizing stuff and logistics, and I could get along in a band environment relatively well, and I could be a team player and everything like that at the time. Um, but it was like made very clear to me once or twice, like, look, you're not a great guitarist, but that's not all there is to be in a band. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started losing my hair, I was like, oh my fucking God, like the thing that is most valuable about me, like my appearance, is being taken
Oh,
away and I can't do anything about it. And oh my, it was
that's
just this
awful.
crazy thing. And it caused so much anxiety for so long. And then
I saw your post
during,
about that the other day. Well, not the other day, it's probably like months ago, but I thought it was a really good post about how, when you had your hair, you were like, this is the main thing that makes me attractive. And now looking back, like, I look weird with hair and I feel normal in how I look right now, which I agreed. I was like, oh, Marcus with hair, that's different, right? Like this is the Marcus now. I like this Marcus better. It's just interesting.
It is crazy, like how we can experience these things and have something about our appearance change and be literally terrified of that change. For me, I was like, that occupied a whole lot of real estate in my mind, being scared shitless about losing my hair and thinking about it every single day, and that being part of my life for like over a decade. But then
Wow.
when I did shave my head, it was like during the COVID kind of lockdowns and everything like that, I couldn't get a haircut, and I was kind of cheekily testing the water with my girlfriend and being like, oh, so I think I'm just gonna do like a buzz cut, like just, you know, just because just because I can't be fucked trying to find a hairdresser or whatever. Like I was trying to play it cool and just, you know, be one of those cool guys that was just, you know, shaving their head during lockdown and making it no big thing. But on the inside, I was scared as hell. And my girlfriend, Marta, being Marta, she's from Poland, and, you know, like I said, beautiful and quite blunt and tells the truth like all the time about everything. And she's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. You can go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I
probably knew.
Yeah, I was expecting. Oh, yeah, most likely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was expecting more of a like, oh, are you sure? Like you might not look the same or whatever, which actually has been my experience in previous relationships where people maybe were a bit more attached to particular elements of how I look. So then she was just like, oh no, do it. So I buzz cut it down to like a 2 or something like that. And then I was like, okay, what if I go further? What if I take it like right down to like a 0 and properly do this? And I had the talk with her again. I'm like, look, I think I just want to do this, like, you know, but, you know, I'm just saying, because, you know, it might be a big difference. There's a big difference in my appearance from like a 2 down to a 0. And, you know, I'm experiencing like multiple levels of anxiety and insecurity here. And she's just like, yeah, just do it. You'll be just fine.
Yeah.
And,
just pushing you over the edge.
And so I shaved off all my hair, like right down to a 0. I came out of the bathroom with my like heart on my sleeve, just experiencing this intense anxiety. And she kind of glanced at me and went, yeah, you look exactly the same. You look exactly the same. You're still very handsome. You look exactly the same. Can we go walk the dog now? You know, like,
yeah.
And it was like this thing about appearance that I'd been stressing over and fixating on for like over a decade. And I think so many of us have these things in regards to our appearance and what we attach our emotions to with how we look. And if they do actually change, or when they do actually change, as scary as that might be, we kind of end up realizing like it's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. No, they seem like they're such a big deal and they're vital to you as a person, and it's going to completely like ruin everything. And actually it wasn't that being anchored that who you are the whole time. And it's just like you as a person is who you are. Yeah. I think that also this is a more vapid or like surface level thing, but one time some dude was like asking me if I found someone attractive, and it was between 2 guys, and I thought the bald guy was more attractive, and he was like, really? What? And I was like, yeah, he said like his face better, and he's like, you would date a bald guy, and it's like, yes, yeah, I would, of course. Like being bald is not a deal breaker. It's like something that happens. It's a look. It's a total look that people have, right? So I think even that, like something that people think is automatically a negative thing, isn't inherently even a negative thing. And there are so many different preferences in the world. But even if someone like doesn't find that attractive, or let's say it's objectively an unattractive trait, whatever it is, which, you know, you can never prove that, but let's say for example it was, there is so much more to you as a person than how you look. And eventually everyone's looks fade unless you have access to some really weird technology or something. But I think even with that, your looks will fade. So you really have to eventually find value in yourself as a person, regardless of how you look. And that will get rid of a lot of that paralyzing fear, like you were experiencing with shaving your head.
100%. And after going on that massive tangent, I realized the actual point that was more relevant to what you were saying.
I think this is going to be like we said, a fun ranty episode.
And well, it was just about, how we think that certain people are going to like judge us based on, or, overvalue certain things of our appearance. And we think, if I don't look like this, it's going to be a deal breaker. Or if I don't have this particular attribute, like, it's going to be a deal breaker. And someone told me at one point, I was like, oh, but like, what if I lose my hair, or what if I put on weight, or whatever? And this guy who was, 10, 20 years older than me at the time, he's like, look, anyone who loses interest in you or doesn't want to speak to you because of that is a clinical prick.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good thing to say.
And it just kind of made me go, okay.
Yeah.
And
it's like I looked up before this episode what are the most important traits in finding a partner, and it had nothing to do with like attraction. It was like openness, honesty and integrity, empathy, affection, independence, respect, and humor. And those people that, they're not like, they're only in it for the attraction. It's not that it's wrong. I think there are some relationships where that is the case, and they have both, like, as long as everyone's all on board with that, then they can do what they want, right? But I think if you're looking for a long-term relationship, it can't just be all based on attraction. And I think a lot of people are looking for long-term companionship in some way, whatever way they want it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not just all a physical thing, and you can't base a relationship like on that, or you will drive yourself crazy. And then, like you said, like, emotional stability is like a core thing you want. And I think when I was trying to base my relationship off of like just changing my appearance, I was completely unstable, and then wondering why my relationship wasn't working out that well. And it's like, well, maybe it's because you're crazy, not just because you weigh a little bit more than usual.
The way that you phrase stuff sometimes just like
well, it was just so simple, right? It's so obvious, but I was like, I just needed to change this. And it wasn't like I was thinking that in so black and white, but I was so fixated on changing my image that I was willing to let everything else just fall to the wayside. And I could not see the real problems at hand. And he would tell me sometimes, like, maybe changing these things would help. And I was like, I hear you, but yeah, I'm gonna do this.
I hear you. I would definitely, maybe some emotional stability or whatever, maybe that would help, but it's definitely the weight. It's definitely that last few pounds. That's definitely the problem.
No. Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, I think that people get roped into things. And then unfortunately we are in a society that really validates appearance. And I think that it's not that we're saying you should not care about your appearance at all, or at least I'm not saying that. I don't think you are either. But it's just that it can't be the only thing. And it's not like, even though, what am I trying to say with this? I think I'm getting confused or turned around. Yeah, it's unfortunate basically that we live in a society that just completely like worships how we look. Probably because that's the first thing we can judge people on is their appearance, right? It's the first thing we can use and see.
I mean, it's very, with social media, film, television, all that kind of stuff, we don't really get to know people properly through social media, through movies, through all these mediums that we are so very much exposed to constantly all the time. So through those things, potentially we have just a misrepresentation of just how important appearance actually is. And no doubt, I bet on any day you can think of at least 10 people, male or female, who you would consider really attractive, but on like a physical level, but when you factor in maybe who they are as a person, you don't feel attracted to them. There's that whereas there might be other people out there, again, male or female, who you might think they're not like stereotypically attractive, but I'm quite attracted to them. I have this with my man crushes, like constantly.
Yeah.
Like,
personality is attractive. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like you, I remember there were guys in high school or just like guys I knew, throughout the ages of my life, whatever. And I always think like, oh, they're so attractive. And then I'd actually talk to them and they were really boring and kind of annoying and had no personality whatsoever and kind of jerks. And I was like, ew, I don't like you anymore. I don't want to be around you. No, because like, it's just, I always say this, or I've said this before, is like, if, you could be with the prettiest person on earth somehow, but if, you'd get bored just staring at them, like it wouldn't last that long for you. It'd be really annoying after a while.
Yeah. That just reminded me of this picture I saw of this just like incredible looking dude. And I wish I could remember exactly what it said, but it said like, well, the caption, it said, no matter how handsome he is, one day you're going to get sick of all his bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, I think we made the point abundantly clear, but you really can't rely on appearance alone, and it's not everything. And personality can take away from appearance. If you are really, really not so good in one area of your personality, that can sometimes outshine how you look. And like, you wouldn't just say, and of course we have done this in society, like the whole, have you watched the Netflix series, or who Ted Bundy is?
Oh, the murderer?
Like the serial killer, right?
Yeah.
He was, they made a really interesting statement because they made like Zac Efron play Ted Bundy in this thing, who's I think he's very attractive. A lot of people think he's very attractive, but they did that because supposedly, even though I've actually looked him up, the actual Ted Bundy was attractive. I would say no, but he was a heartthrob at the time, even though he's like a serial killer, right? And they found it interesting that he was very charismatic, and he had like a whole fan base because he was attractive. But even he obviously got put away and justice was served. So you aren't just going to let people go because they're attractive. Like, you just don't get a pass because they're pretty.
Yeah, let that guy go. We can't keep him in here.
He's got people to be.
Yeah, like he's too pretty for prison. No, like we got to let that one out. No, that's not definitely that's not how it works.
No, hopefully not. That'd be really scary society for sure.
I mean, it would.
Well, I'm curious, like, what do you think? What do men think are deal breakers usually? Common things.
Okay, so the deal breakers, I mean, for men with no self-respect who are just willing to have someone in their life who makes their life an absolute nightmare just because they look a certain way, those men don't count in what I'm talking about right now. Like,
there are people like that, and they can do what they want, right?
Yeah, and I mean, of course, like, that's not just limited to men. I mean, I should say people. There are some people out there who will find someone really attractive or someone who they find really attractive and will just put up with whatever that person throws their way just because they don't believe that they can do any better or whatever. And, that's a very sad situation. And I just need to put that disclaimer on that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about like, the average guy with, a little bit of self-respect, deal breakers for that guy. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So deal breakers for that guy would be, no one wants someone to come into their life and tornado that shit. Like, Like,
Mhm.
we all, like, I don't think this applies just to men, this is men and women, we all work hard. We all have some goals. We all have stuff that we're doing, things that we're working on, things that are important to us. If someone comes into your life and just takes a giant shit on all that in the name of wanting, in the name of wanting more attention and demanding more of you and trying to make you responsible for their emotions, that's a fucking deal breaker any day of the week.
Yeah.
And I think,
At the
yeah.
base of it, I think the core of it is that most of the time it's like something that they're doing. I just picture the way you're saying it, like what you're saying, we all have stuff and things like that. It's like, I have this castle that I've been building. It's like my castle. It's very pretty. Like, don't mess it up. But if someone comes in and they just crash it, that's a deal breaker. Yeah,
Absolutely,
absolutely.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I
I think it's
guess,
the same for most people.
yeah. What do you think, as far as women are concerned? What are a few of, like, the number one deal breakers? And let's spice up this situation a little bit. Let's say that this
We're already in
guy,
risky water, so why not?
we are already in very, very risky water. I don't know if we're both going to end up cancelled after this conversation, or
Right.
like, I feel like I want to put disclaimer after disclaimer after disclaimer
Yeah,
on
I
this
think we
chat.
have.
But say a guy is, like, super, super attractive. What could be deal breakers?
Well, I think the first things first, deal breakers, like, people can change. So when I'm about to say these things that are deal breakers, of course there's a room in any relationship for forgiveness and willing to work through it. Like, for example, I was a really shitty partner for a while, cheated on my partner, right? So and he stayed with me and worked through me with that. So that's a deal breaker to most people. And I'm really grateful that we worked through that. And I definitely became a different person. So technically I was a deal breaker and I came around, right? But for women, again, I don't speak for all women, but I'd say most deal breakers are people, like men that are maybe constantly trying to use you to boost their own ego up, possibly, or men, anyone in general that feels really insecure. And so they try to keep you down in order to feel secure.
Hmm.
Especially me, like, I plan on doing a lot of things in my life. If someone's not okay with that, then it's kind of like, well, see you. And also people that are probably super controlling, or they just don't respect you or your time or anything like that. And then also a deal breaker, I think, would be people that are obviously not only unsafe, that's one other one, but one that's like expecting you to do all the work in a relationship. I think, we're
Hmm.
both in long-term relationships, so we know that the relationships aren't always even, and sometimes, like, you're taking on more of the stuff or they're taking on more of the stuff, vice versa, whatever. But um in a relationship, I think it's more of a partnership, and you both work together to try to create something, and you don't just expect it to, like, put everything on one person, right? So I
Yeah,
think that would be a
yeah,
deal
for
breaker
sure.
as well.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, when the subject of deal breakers come up, not a lot of them, like, the one, I don't know about you, but the first things that spring to mind for me, like, aren't physical attributes. Like, I don't get, like, a mental image. Like, when someone says, oh, what would be a deal breaker, I don't get, like, this mental image or this list of physical attributes. I get more, like, things that happen within a relationship, or
Yeah.
behaviors, or all that kind of stuff. And the flip side of that would be, I feel like a lot of people underestimate the attractiveness of understanding someone. Like, I heard, I wish I could say that I was responsible for this particular piece of wisdom. I don't remember where it came from. I just remember that it's not mine. Like, the most valuable thing that you could give someone ever is to actually take the time to understand them, to
Mhm.
understand who they are, you know, why they
People
are
want
the
to
way
be
that they are.
seen and heard, right? And understood.
Yeah,
That's what we're all seeking.
100%. And of course, that goes without saying that we're not talking about understanding from a perspective of, enabling someone to be a prick and saying, oh, that's just who he is. Like,
Yeah.
but it's more like, yeah, I know for a fact that one of the things that I value most in my relationship is being understood. And it's like, well, that comes before a lot of other things. It's like, if you feel understood, if you know that someone is putting in the time to understand you, and they're not just doing that because they think they should, they're doing that because they want to understand who you are. That is something that I feel isn't really talked about that much, and goes a long way.
Absolutely. No, I think just holding space for people, holding space in your relationship with other person is a gift that not many people in society give. And finding in a partnership, it's not like people on the street have time to give you space and understanding, right? They're doing their own thing. So
Yeah.
finding that person, or, not everyone just has like a one-to-one relationship. The people in your life on all levels to hold space for you and understand you is very, very valuable, and one of the main probably pieces in a relationship. Even I think in my relationship, when I was going through all that turmoil, something my boyfriend did really well, that me, even if I didn't understand at the time, was he did understand me. And I think he could see really clearly where it was coming from. And he was obviously grappling with like, okay, I understand her, but do I want to stay? Right. And we had to work through that. But even when someone is being a prick or crazy, you can understand them and you can still choose to leave, right? But offering that understanding to them during those moments can be helpful for you too. And it's helpful for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot of risky stuff. I think I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we want to say on this subject?
The thing that I wanted to talk about was just, again, I think we've touched on it quite a bit, is just the fact that so many of us put ourselves through so much in the name of achieving certain things, while being kind of misinformed about what those things are going to add to our lives. And whether that be a drastically, like, mind-blowingly abundant income, or whether it be like looking, a very particular way. I think so often we go chasing those things for one reason or another. And then I know definitely in my experience, I've had like the people who actually love me, the people who are close to me, who I want to have around, their attitude is kind of like, but why? Like, I mean, I want to understand why that's important to you, sure, but you don't need to do that, right? You know that you're valuable. You know that you're valuable without that, right? And
I think you highlighted something really cool there, is that not only when you chase after these things, because that was the second thing I was after, is weight loss and then money. Like, how do I make more money? Because like, if I just made more money, my problems would be solved. And my personality would be so much better. But not only when you focus on those things, that like a big goal that you have to reach, and then once you get there, then everything will be magically solved. Not only can it be a detriment to your health, and it can be a detriment to your personality, but then it also forces you to kind of have everything in your life be overshadowed by that, and you ignore what's really in front of you, including the people that are in front of you. And maybe like those people are right there, they're trying to love you, they're trying to be there for you, and you are just not noticing them and not feeling the love they have for you right now, right there.
Dude, yes. 100%.
It sucks. Yeah. We all get so like, having goals. We're not saying having goals aren't important, and working towards some of these things aren't something you can do, but maybe don't let them completely overshadow it, and never think that it's going to solve everything, because that's just not a thing in life. There's no magic key to anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Just to end on a particularly funny note, I just remembered an example of this when you were talking about, the things that people find most attractive in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading something that just blew my mind. I was like, what, are you fucking joking? Are you serious? When it comes to like body parts on men that are regarded as most attractive amongst the bros, everyone's working on their biceps, but glutes were still regarded as being more important than biceps across the board.
Isn't that hilarious?
Outside of the realm of like your gym bro mates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I remember finding that out too. And I was like, that makes sense. I don't like immediately look towards guys. This is again creepy, but like having a butt is important. Like having a butt is part of like a strong physique, right? And like if you don't like if you have no butt, it's like I guess you don't use it that often. I don't know, but tricky territory. But yeah, absolutely. Like it is a funny thing. I was just thinking about actually height is kind of an issue for a lot of people, and I'm a taller gal. I'm 5'10", roughly. So, do you like, for you, just as a guy, do you think that tall girls are like a deal breaker, or like they have to be a certain height? Has that ever been an important thing for you in attraction?
I'm really, really glad you mentioned that, because it's not a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think any guy out there who won't date someone who's, his height or a bit taller, or like, I think being really particular over height, or anyone who's really fixated on height, is, again, a special kind of prick. Like, and I just don't, like, I dated women in the past who were taller than me, especially if they were wearing heels. Like I'm 5'11", like 6 foot on a good day. It's funny. And like 5'11". So yeah, and I've just not, it's never been something that has been an issue for me. It's never even been on my radar, but I'm glad you mentioned it, because I have heard certain guys who, I would not piss on them if they were on fire, like those kind of guys, talk about this kind of thing from a really shitty perspective. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like, bro, you've got bigger issues right now than that.
Girls do that too, though. They I hear it from shorter girls a lot too, which, me being a taller girl, I'm like, why are you saying that? But they're always like, he has to be 6 foot and up. And I'm like, the average height, at least in America, is like 5'9", right? It's not 6 foot. That's not the average height for dudes. And so you're not only asking for like average, but above average. And it's like, and they're 5'4". I'm like, you really need that much like more height for a dude? It's an odd thing, but it's valued a lot in society, right? And so people get really insecure about it, and they think that that's cool to talk about.
Yeah, full circle. Thanks to that bloke who plays Reacher. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, you should. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'll just say, no, I bet he's a really good dude. No, like, I mean, of course, I'm joking, but yeah, height is a big one, and especially.
Well, it's kind of funny with height. This is just I'm just rambling at this point, and I know we're at time, but I like being a taller girl. I've only dated a few guys that were taller than me. Most of them were actually shorter than me. Maybe one was my height, but the two people, and my boyfriend now is shorter than me and love him to death. But the two guys that were shorter than me, him included, never once made an insecure comment about my height, did not talk about it, did not like, and the first time my boyfriend currently mentioned my height was like 3 months into the relationship, and it was a compliment. It was like, oh wow, your legs are so long. But all the guys that were my height or taller would make weird comments like, I'm glad I'm a few inches taller than you, or like, please don't wear heels around me or something. And it was just so interesting to me that like the guys that were my height and taller would make insecure comments like that and try to like keep me and not wear heels or something. It was just strange. So I found that definitely height is not a deal breaker for me, because maybe it seems that shorter guys can kind of understand like height stigma a bit more and not care about it, because they also have to deal with that themselves.
100%. Like, it's just that strength of character thing, right? And it kind of comes back to that overlying principle of, if, you know, insert particular physical trait here, like if that is what someone is choosing to fixate on and make a decision about whether or not you're a attractive or valuable person based on what one or two particular physical traits, then that person is like clinically diagnosable as a fucking prick, and you don't need them in your life. Like, they're not. That guy's not the guy. He's not.
Because it comes back into that. Like, if you're super insecure, and I was really. Sometimes I can still be insecure, and then I try to like maybe bring people other down to make me myself feel more secure. But when people were doing that to me in the relationship, it was definitely a sign of like, you know, they liked me, but there was some problem about them, a problem that they had with me that made them feel bad. And so therefore they're trying to bring me down. And so that's definitely a deal breaker. I would rather have someone that's just secure and is comfortable with themselves, no matter what I look like or what I do, you know, that sort of stuff. Not saying I could just do anything in the relationship, but you know what I mean. We've been talking too long for the people that are listening. We're just rambling at this point.
We're good. We should wrap this up. Yeah.
So Marcus, where can people find you?
Depends on the kind of feedback you want to give about this episode.
I think it was a good episode.
I'm joking, I think. I hope. Kain Coaching on Instagram, or mkaincoaching.com. That's Kain spelt Kain. So yeah, mkaincoaching.com or mkaincoaching on Instagram is where you'll be able to find me. And Jacqueline, for the people listening to my podcast, where can people hear more of you?
Yeah, you can find me at Binge Breakers on podcast. That's my podcast title. On Instagram, it's bingebreakers_bulimia. But pretty much if you type in Binge Breakers to Google, you'll probably find me somewhere. Binge Breakers and Bulimia, and you'll find me. But my website's also just bingebreakers.com.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for the chat today. I think we did all right.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everyone listening. Bye, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. And it's your girl here, Jacqueline. And I'm in one of those moods where I'm very tired. Like, you know, my eyes just feel tired, and falling asleep sounds really good. Closing my eyes sounds really good right now. And yet I am so wired on caffeine. And that is not something I would recommend. The reason that I am that way is because I didn't get a whole lot of sleep the past few nights, and I've been working really hard while also trying to maintain normal daily life. But sometimes hustle has to happen, and I have a really good reason for why I'm so tired and hopped up on caffeine. And that's because I'm hosting a free 5-day no binging challenge starting this Monday. And so if you want to sign up for that, if you are feeling stuck and monotonous in your bulimia recovery and you want to stop binging, but you really don't feel that motivation or momentum, this challenge is for you. It's completely free. It's going to be super excited. It's my first time ever doing a challenge, and I've been working really hard to do that among coaching with my clients and taking care of the new course members and doing everything normal that I do, like walking my dog. So please, if you would like to join and hang out with me and my caffeine hopped up free self, then you can find that in the description below. Just click on the link that says free challenge and you'll be taken there, and follow the prompts and you'll be joined, and then you'll be added to a Facebook group, and then we will all focus on going 5 days without binging and learn a lot in the process. It's not just about going 5 days. This will be about building momentum and giving you the base knowledge you need so that you can continue it. So anyway, this is an awesome opportunity. It's completely free. There's really no risk to it. It's just you got to show up in your bad self. Secondly, today's episode is going to be kind of a fun one. It's not my typical conversation that I have, but I invited Marcus Kain back on the podcast. Marcus is a great dude. We're probably going to do many other collaborations because our conversations, like, we just vibe. I feel like we vibe, and I think he thinks the same thing. But today we had a conversation all about attraction and what people think others are attracted to, what people think is important in terms of attraction and finding another partner, but it's not actually reality, and how trying to appeal to the masses actually makes you do really crazy things. And we talk about both of our misconceptions that we had about what we think maybe the opposite sex wants or stuff like that. The only thing to keep in mind is, first of all, we don't speak for everyone. So the whole conversation, you notice we're a little bit nervous. We're like putting disclaimer after disclaimer on this conversation, but we definitely don't speak for all men or all women or all people. But then secondly, we both agreed, we talked about it afterwards, that we really didn't do a good job. We dropped the ball on the fact that we didn't really talk about people that don't identify as either male or female. And so what I want to say is that, first of all, I'm sorry, we didn't consider that while we were talking about it, but this conversation still definitely applies to those of you that don't necessarily identify as male or female and just identify as they, them. It really, the concepts we talk about aren't just about men and women, they're concepts for everyone. So sometimes we use just she or he pronouns and we didn't necessarily think about the inclusivity. So I just wanted to apologize and own up to that, and hopefully you can understand. I support you guys out there. And so yeah, please listen to this episode, and I hope at least, you feel good after listening to it and it makes you laugh a little bit. It's kind of a lighthearted episode. So please enjoy. If you want to sign up for the challenge, doors close Monday morning. So sign up now. There's only 100 spaces available. So do that. All right. Enjoy the episode. Bye.